Good morning. Thank you for joining us here this morning after a very difficult past few days for our country and our region. We knew that the right-wing Supreme Court's decision to roll back the clock on our rights was coming, but that didn't make it any less painful. The decision finally came down as I was driving my son to Indianapolis for a basketball tournament, which really got me thinking. While I'm the mayor of St. Louis, I'm a mom first. And while I'm so proud of both of these titles, it's my son who remains my priority, always. And that's something I think most parents can agree on. This country puts so much pressure on mothers. Black mothers are especially in the spotlight. Think about the ways everything former First Lady Michelle Obama did and continues to do that, scrutinized, editorialized, and criticized. I've been open many times about how I never planned to get pregnant with my son 14 years ago, but I had the family network and support I needed, even if money was tight for a bit, to give him the good upbringing and the love he deserves. I was in a position to make that decision, and I made the right one for me. Friday's horrific overturning of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court strips away the fundamental right of us to make our own healthcare decisions for our own bodies. And while we know the cruel consequences of this ruling will fall hardest on Black women, poor women, and communities of color, we're all in the same boat in this fight, no matter the color of your skin. The overturning of Roe v. Wade will do nothing to lower Missouri's disgraceful high infant maternal mortality rates. Even stricter regulations or restrictions on abortions will push families further into poverty. It will regulate our bodies more strictly than the assault rifles and guns that flood our streets. People who can give birth will still have abortions, and worst of all, some of them will die because they'll be pushed back into the shadows, the kitchen tables, the alleyways, the unlicensed providers. This will only make the disparities in healthcare that we've seen since the COVID-19 pandemic even worse. I said that I would fight like hell to protect reproductive health care and give St. Louisans the support they need to make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. I support Alderwoman Annie Rice's Board Bill 61, which will provide reproductive health support for people at all stages of pregnancy. And we're working with the City Councilor's Office on this critical piece of legislation. This decision has opened doors to further reconsideration of the freedoms and rights we hold dear: LGBTQ rights, the right to access contraception, and even interracial marriage. Best believe that this will only strengthen my resolve in this fight. But I want to see that same energy in Congress. And Democrats can do what they should have done years ago, decades ago: codify Roe v. Wade. So even while the Supreme Court in our state work overtime to turn back the clock on our freedom, I'm proud to be joined here today by leaders across our region to show that St. Louis is united in this fight to protect these unalienable rights. Now it is my privilege and honor to turn the podium over to my sister, Congresswoman Cori Bush.
All right, good morning. When news broke about the far-right Supreme Court decision, I was sitting at the very same abortion clinic, our once sole abortion care provider, where I had my abortion at the age of 18. I was advocating with HHS Secretary Becerra about protecting access to abortion care in our communities. Within minutes of this decision, Missouri became the first state to enact its trigger ban and outlaw and criminalize abortion care with no exceptions for rape or incest. I was sitting there at the clinic that changed my life at 18. That same clinic had to cease operations right before us. Looking at the faces around me, I knew that without action, this would have been this would have deadly consequences. The Supreme Court decision is devastating for everyone, but its harm will affect and will hit hardest Black, brown, indigenous people, young people, LGBTQIA people, immigrants, people with disabilities, and low-income communities. In a country where there is no universal health care, no paid family and medical leave, no universal child care, and one of the highest rates of maternal mortality rates compared to other industrialized nations, the decision to force birth is not about life. It's about control. It's about coercion that will devastate our communities. Through all the harm that comes with this decision, I want to remind Missouri that you still have access to abortion care. People can access and self-manage abortion care with medication abortion pills and can receive them through the mail. People can utilize abortion funds for travel, for childcare, for lodging, and for medical assistance. Go to abortionfinder.org. That's abortionfinder.org if you need help finding abortion care providers. I want to make my constituents a promise. As a member of Congress, I will not stop fighting for you, fighting for our fundamental rights. This is an emergency, and it demands an emergency response. This is why I'm calling on the administration to declare the attack on abortion rights a public health emergency. It's why I'm urging the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services to prevent efforts by our governor of this state and the state legislature from blocking essential family planning services. It's why I'm calling on Congress to pass a package to help fund travel vouchers, child care, lodging, and pregnancy support care for people with the greatest needs who live in the state of Missouri and for other states like ours. And for the Biden administration to use its executive authority to open up resources for abortion care services, expand and protect access to medication abortion pills, and we must really discuss this, the use of federal lands for services. It's why I led the call in the House of Representatives with 117 members, calling on the Senate to abolish the filibuster and pass the Women's Health Protection Act to codify abortion rights. I'm also proud to say that the House is ready to advance legislation when we get back to DC next month to finally repeal the Hyde Amendment. The Senate needs to step up. The Senate must step up to get rid of this racist, draconian, discriminatory policy. Today we're coming together as the St. Louis region united, just as our amazing mayor said. I know that the people beside me will not stop fighting. We will work together as a region to protect reproductive health care and get the families the support they need and that they need now. Thank you. Next, we will call up Dr. Love Holt, who we love. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor and Congresswoman. I am Reverend Dr. Love Holt. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an organizer and storyteller with Pro-Choice Missouri. Over the past year, amidst ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Pro-Choice Missouri conducted a broad community outreach engaging nearly 50 St. Louisans in intimate conversations around their reproductive health care and things around their pregnancies. As I sat in on every one of these conversations, what I learned was really no surprise. Whether due to economic insecurity, institutional racism, Missouri's harmful laws, or some combination of the aforementioned things, people are continuously denied access to just the basic healthcare needs, including wanted abortions. What I heard in these conversations were many stories like my own. In 2018, despite facing countless obstacles, I was able to finally get an abortion that was crucial in a critical moment of my life. I had 4 children, trying to escape a domestically violent marriage and relationship. And because I had a low-wage job, I didn't qualify for Medicaid and many other resources in the community. So I didn't have health coverage. When I sat in the waiting room, I was completely panicked, sweating, nervous, because I knew I did not have the money to pay for this procedure. And the medically unnecessary hoops I had to jump through, thanks to politicians in Missouri, ultimately delayed my care, ultimately making it more expensive procedure, 2-day procedure, and even more expensive by the number of days I took off work and the child care that I had to pay for. Thanks to Supportive Network, Planned Parenthood, and the Missouri Abortion Fund, I was able to get that abortion. But not everyone has that same victory. See, that's why we're here today. We want to help ensure all St. Louis's have the support they need to get their appointments. Because so often getting there, the travel, the lodging, the child care, for 60% of the people who get abortions that are already parents like myself, this is an obstacle. My abortion helped me get my feet on the ground as I took my children and ran from that violent relationship. It allowed me to be here to do the work that I am so passionate about today with Pro-Choice Missouri. See, everyone should have that support and opportunity that I had, because the alternative means being denied access to basic care. Everyone should have the support and opportunity, and this has had a devastating impact on individuals in our community, especially because we know how abortion access is directly related to maternal health outcomes. For Black and brown moms, women, pregnant people, trans people specifically already facing severe health disparities, already disproportionately harmed by the pandemic, the threat of abortion becoming even more inaccessible is devastating. That's why I am grateful to be here today, to tell my story, to support Board Bill 61, which addresses the congruent crisis of maternal mortality and abortion access by creating a municipal fund stream to support all pregnancy outcomes, including abortion. This work is a direct reflection of our community and a direct response to the named needs of those very St. Louisans I set before on last year. So I want to say thank you to all the alders leading this bill. Thank you to Mayor Jones, Congresswoman Cori Bush as well, for being leaders in this fight. And thank you to all other elected officials and community leaders who say the word abortion, because this fight will take each and every one of us. Thank you. Next to the podium, I will call our local doula support, Lakeisha Reddit.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Lakeisha Reddit. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a mom, community health worker, community doula, and the chair of the St. Louis Doula Project. The St. Louis Doula Project is a vast network of Black and brown community doulas in the St. Louis region who have banded together to ensure affordability and access to doula care remains a staple for all pregnant people in St. Louis through the lens of reproductive justice, and is central to our mission as an organization. We are the only doula organization in the St. Louis region who has committed itself to ensuring that abortion clients have support when accessing safe abortion since its inception in 2019 by providing rides, physical support, and postpartum care. Members of the St. Louis Doula Project committed themselves without questions asked, providing a necessary service to those who are seeking support. Both increasing access to doulas and ensuring abortion access are critical parts of addressing the maternal mortality crisis, particularly for Black and brown women and birthing people. The states with the most restrictions on abortion have the highest rates of maternal mortality, and Black and brown pregnant people have rates of mortality 3 to 4 times higher than white people here in St. Louis City alone, which mimics the national statistics. With Roe v. Wade abolished through the Supreme Court, the threat of people like me and the clients I serve is even more severe, as Missouri providers will face a felony offense for providing abortions. I personally had a silent miscarriage in 2018 and had to have a DNC. But now, with no abortion available in Missouri and with abortion providers threatened with 30 years in prison, it terrifies me to think what could have happened to me if my doctor had refused to provide this care out of fear of going to prison. We need our leaders to do everything they can to support people getting basic health care, and this includes so much more than just the health procedure. People's access to any health care should not be limited by personal circumstance. Just think of the ways social determinants of health impact people's ability to make a health care decision, such as accessing insurance, safe and affordable housing, child care, poverty, and more. And that's why Board Bill 61 is so important. Doulas are an essential part of the birth work network, and there's a high need for us in our region. There is a trained and available workforce ready to serve pregnant people in our region, and we are evidence of that. However, doulas are not covered by insurance, including Medicaid, and we are often limited by lack of infrastructure, as doulas often operate as independent providers. Making funding available specifically for both logistical access to abortion and birth worker infrastructure will be a critical way to support the capacity of existing doulas and would have a significant impact in the St. Louis region. As a doula, my goal is to support my client no matter their decision, and I recognize how central abortion care is to pregnancy overall. All people, whether choosing to have a baby or seeking abortions, deserve support. Thank you. And now I'm going to call to the podium Rabbi Talby.
Thank you. One of my very first memories as a child in the 1950s is asking my mother where she was going. She hesitated for a moment and sat me down and explained that a friend of ours, a woman who already had 7 children, was pregnant, and her doctor told her that this pregnancy would surely kill her. Both our friend and my mother were very poor at the time, but my mother had friends who could pay the high fees required, and she took our friend for an illegal abortion. It saved her life. We know that abortions, as you've heard, will continue regardless of the reckless decisions of the Supreme Court and of our red state, and it now has the distinction of being among the first and the worst, as our attorney governor overturned court stays and signed Missouri's trigger laws into being. And we know that now more people will die tragic, painful deaths, and the divide between the two Americas, separated by race, class, and access, will continue to grow. In America, religion has often been associated with anti-abortion stance, but an overwhelming majority of Americans working to protect the right to abortion are doing so because of our religious commitments. My fight for choice is grounded in both Jewish law and in Jewish tradition's understanding of our profound commitment to protect the rights of the most at risk, the most vulnerable. Jewish tradition protects the rights and the life of the person who is pregnant from anything that threatens it and does not force pregnancy upon us. Abortion access, then, is also a matter of religious freedom. Jews are not only permitted to terminate a pregnancy, but when our lives are at stake, we may be obligated by Jewish law to do so. And abortion laws that draw upon specific Christian concepts like fetal personhood, for example, or the notion that life begins at conception, and what does conception mean? Many things. These do not allow for the other understandings of when life begins. And when we are certain about these kinds of things, we call it the sin of certainty. When we impose our personal beliefs that by definition can change upon others, this is a sin. The 14th Amendment also protects our liberty, and the overturning of Roe limits liberty with the imposition of gender discrimination. We know that we have been living in a post-Roe red state for some time. The cruel suffering and deaths caused by limited access and funds for life-saving reproductive health care and abortions will only continue to grow unless we act. That's why this bill, Bill 61, coming right out of the heart of the city of St. Louis, is crucial and is bold and will save lives. Because unless we act, this too is an affront to the highest principle held by many religious and non-religious people alike, the saving of a life. Those who limit access have blood on their hands. I truly try to listen and have compassion for people who are on different sides of this issue. But the true test of laws is not theoretical. It is their impact, and we know the impact of restricting access. Defending abortion is about our broader ethical and spiritual obligations because we are taught to look for the people who are most harmed by this and to focus on their needs. Abortion bans deepen every structural inequality in our society. They disproportionately, as you've heard, affect people who are struggling financially, people of color. And limited abortion access provides additional challenges for those already experiencing barriers to accessing health care, including young people, those in rural communities, immigrants, disabled people, trans men, and some non-binary people. And people who are denied access to reproductive health care are more likely to live in poverty and to remain in abusive relationships. Our maternal mortality rates, already unacceptably high, will rise, and the divides between us will grow. And we know about divides here in this city, in this region, and in this state. But we also know how to come together for the common good. We also know how to stand up to unjust systems of oppression and defy and resist laws that cause suffering, especially to the most vulnerable. And we know how to elect the people that reflect the voices of the majority. The majority of the people want access to abortion. We know this. Even in Missouri, who continue to want access to affordable, safe, legal reproductive health care, contraception, and abortion. The story in the Torah that we read this week is about a rebel. His name is Korach. He questions the authority of Moses. He says, aren't we all holy, Moses? But we learn that even though he says the right thing, his motivation is not clear. It's not holy, and it's not about what he's saying. No, he's just after more power. He doesn't want to change the structures of power. He just wants more power for himself. His controversy, we learn, is not for the sake of heaven. And we take this lesson through the wilderness to make sure that our controversies, our fights, our causes are for the sake of heaven, which means that they are for the common good and not self-interest. They are for the sake of the most vulnerable and not the elite few. And to make sure that we're not just tearing things down, but we're building up better systems that do not divide us by class and race and faith, but serve and include and protect us all. The overturning of Roe has taken away the constitutional right of every person with a uterus to know what is best for ourselves. And we know that this is not just about abortion. It is about restrictive voting and more guns and LGBTQ rights and other issues that harm the marginalized. But we are far from done. This is far from over. And I have to believe that when we come out on the other side of this dark time, hearts and minds will open. And by working together, as we are today, we will have reproductive freedom, affordable and safe and legal access to reproductive health care and contraception and abortion for absolutely all who seek it, even better than we had it before. How do I know? Because we've been here before. 8 years ago yesterday, I stood in this very room and defied the law by marrying 2 men. Not long after that, the laws changed. And until we have reproductive health care access again, you can be sure that, like my mother did so long ago, many of us will defy these laws, the laws of this state, and work together for the sake of heaven to protect our right to choose. And now it is a privilege to bring up Reverend Dietrich Wise, who really represents so many faith leaders in this community.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Dietrich Weisbacher. I'm an assistant professor at Eden Theological Seminary. And the first thing that I want to tell you is that I am a religious leader, I am a Christian, and I had an abortion. At the age of 22, I was married, I was a college graduate, but I knew that my marriage wasn't going to last. And I didn't want to bring a baby into that situation. It was my choice, it was my body. It was my decision to make. And this decision has and will erupt and take away that decision from so many women. I'm here today representing over 100 area faith leaders of the St. Louis Interfaith Coalition for Reproductive Rights. We find this decision to be offensive and punitive to the religious freedom we all value and practice. The Supreme Court decision is deeply troubling to us as clergy. I know you think that we all believe the same thing, but we do not. The grounds for this decision are based within the context of a narrow religious understanding of the role of women in society and their personal agency over their own lives. Codifying this one religious perspective amounts to religious tyranny. Our religious traditions affirm that pregnant people are the sole arbiters of their reproductive health care and their decisions about when and if to bear children. Our faith, I'm gonna say it again, our faith insists that a pregnant person's life is to be respected and protected against harm that might be caused to her by an unhealthy or untimely pregnancy. A mother's body is not the property of a male partner or of the government. It is hers alone. As it has already been said, data and experience have taught us that the laws that will be passed will not stop abortion. These short-sighted laws will end in the cruel and painful deaths of many who do not have access to safe and affordable life-saving procedures. Our religious traditions hold that the saving of these lives matter. I'm also a mom. I'm a mom of a 3-year-old baby. I got to make that choice too. But it wasn't without hardship, without problems through our current access of health care. If we're gonna fix the problem, let's fix the problem. Next, the Reverend Higgins, Michelle Higgins.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Higgins. I'm the senior pastor of St. John's Church, the beloved community on North Grand and Lee. When I was growing up, my family owned and still owns a house on Method and Prairie. And my great aunt sought to inform me of some sex education, because we wasn't getting that. I grew up in the Pentecostal church. No offense, but you know we don't have sex ed in the Pentecostal church. And so the storefront black Pentecostal churches that said abstinence only, my great aunt said, I've got to give you a different message. You see, baby girl, when I was young, I had an abortion, and that abortion was obtained at the local dry cleaners through some combination of laundry, detergents, and Lysol. She never really recovered. I'd never seen my great aunt ever walk. I don't know all of the intricacies of what happened to her body, but I knew that that was injustice. I'm not sure of every single person that despised, hated, or cursed her or damned her, but I knew that they were slightly more akin to the false teachers that I had been forced to learn about again, Pentecostals, hallelujah. I knew everything about false teachers, and here's the profile, Madam Mayor. I knew that false teachers told you what to do with your body. I knew that false teachers told you what you were allowed to learn and not learn. I knew that false teachers told you who you were allowed to love and not love. I knew that they told you where you could or could not, should not, or were unable to live according to whatever identity or value they placed upon you. What I knew about false teachers is that everything you are and everything that comes out of you belongs to them, that they may dictate it. And above all, false teachers tell you when the world's about to end. Now, I'm not calling no names, but somebody somewhere up in Washington, somebody somewhere over in Jeff City is trying to tell us that our world's about to end. And I believe that's a false prophecy. I don't know about you. I'm here to tell you today that if there's something that I believe we have gotten from our aunties who struggled and lost the use of their limbs for the sake of being against false teachers, in spite of the threat of damnation, they are speaking to us now. Baby, this is just the beginning. Yes, They are coming for everything, but we have already come around one another. Yes, they threaten to tell us there's no safety, no hiding place, but we have already been through hell and back to see that it is us that keeps us safe. And so my word, if I have only one and I have only 1 minute left, is that nothing can overturn our power to decide for our bodies, ourselves. Today, tomorrow, every new breath, every new life. Breathe it for my auntie up on Maffin Prairie. Breathe it for the people who at Stonewall, June 28th in 1969, decided for their bodies themselves. In a time when the American Psychiatric Association decided that homosexuality was a mental disorder, Marcia, Sylvia, Miss Major stood up and said, oh, I don't think so, because this is my body, my identity, and I refuse to believe false teachers who are proud of how much they know without consulting the people they control. We will not, and we cannot, see success or life ongoing unless or until those whose bodies bear life are honored as ones who show, who give, and who protect life. My aunt did the best thing in protecting herself and that pregnancy, and she suffered for it. And we are the ones who are speaking the new truth, a new day. The prophets of truth who join with people who already understand threat and say, not only will this never happen again, but it will be better than before. Whatever laws we have to resist to make it happen, we will. But whatever laws we are able to move forward to make it happen, we must. Thank you.